Alright, this is John Cole with DiscountJuicers.com. You know, I've been getting some reports of people having problems juicing kale in the VERT single auger vertical juicer. Some people say around the auger, the stems will get wrapped up. So I took immediate action and I went out to my garden and I picked all this great kale. Look at all this kale. Now this is red Russian kale. It's one of my favorite kales. And I particularly picked the ones that were the oldest. So let's take a look. This kale is so beautiful. It's just picked. And look at how long these stalks are. Those are long. I don't know, maybe pushing 2 feet long. So what we're going to do is juice this kale straight. And I don't recommend juicing straight kale unless you're an advanced juicer. Juicing straight kale or straight green juices can get you real sick. So what you normally want to do is you want to juice about 3/4 of your cup full of cucumber, celery, or carrot juice, and then only 1/4 of the cup with the kale. But this is the kale torture test on the Omega VRT Juicer to see what really happens, and we're going to take this apart afterwards so you can see what happened inside the VRT Juicer. So let's go ahead and turn it on without further ado. So this would probably be the equivalent of maybe 5 bunches of kale. It's probably about 3 pounds of kale, actually. It's a lot of kale. So let's put that in one piece at a time. Now the really important thing to know with the Omega VRT Juicer is that you don't want to feed things in too fast. You want to kind of like let it work in there, let it rotate, and let the juice come out. And minimally, you want to make sure there's nothing visible down the feed chute before you feed the next thing in. You're going to get a lot higher yield on the Omega VRT Juicer than, say, a centrifugal ejection juicer. So what it's all about is finding the juicer that's going to meet and match your juicing needs. So say you wanted to juice, carrots and apples and you didn't want to have to cut the produce up, then the 3-inch wide feed chute juicer would be for you. And that's if you didn't want to juice any leaves. If you did want to juice leaves, I would recommend more something like the Omega VRT Juicer, or if you wanted to juice straight leaves like I'm juicing now, although the Omega VRT Juicer would do it, I would actually recommend the Omega 8004 or 8006 series. It tends to do a little bit better when juicing only straight greens. But on the same token, if you wanted to juice a mixture of things, so like, carrot, apple, celery, greens, and you wanted to even juice some fruit sometimes, that's where the Omega VRT Juicer shines. It juices relatively fast, and it really works fairly well on juicing most things. Does it work the best on everything? No, of course not. Rarely in life are there things that are absolutely the best. So, but overall, this is a really good juicer. Oh, now look at this pulp. This pulp is now bone dry. It's working really, really well. Let's continue juicing here. It seems to me that this Omega VRT Juicer is doing really well on my homegrown red Russian kale. Now if you did want to juice some straight kale and drink the juice straight, I wouldn't really have a problem if you drank maybe about like 1 ounce or 2 ounces and used it more like a wheatgrass juice, because you know what? That's what wheatgrass juice really is. It's just another green juice that's rich in chlorophyll. So this is much like the same, and once again, giving the warning out there, look at this. Isn't that some beautiful kale? Look how long that stalk is. I mean, that is 2 feet. Actually, probably longer than 2 feet long. So if this juicer is going to have a problem, it's going to have a problem with this long kale here. We're almost halfway through the bunch here, and I'm going to stop when the bunch is done or when our collection cup is full. I don't know which one will come first. Looks like it's working really well to me. So a good average everyday juice I would recommend. I like to really use celery. It's really high in electrolytes and a natural sodium. Let's see, I make maybe like some celery, apple, and then some greens is what I've been juicing lately. And I try to keep things really simple when I juice. I don't want to juice 50 million things. And once you get a couple different recipes that you use that you like, stick with them and maybe occasionally try some new things. But I've had people that put everything in the juicer except the kitchen sink, and you know what? Sometimes the juices don't turn out that well. So I find that by making simple juices, you know, usually it tastes better. There's not as many flavors, and you know what? Your body's going to be able to better digest the juice when there's less things in it. If it just gets too complicated, your body goes, whoa, what are you throwing at me? But of course, any juice is better than drinking that coffee or soda. You know, so that's something to remember. The other question that comes up a lot that I get is, John, can I save my juice? Well, the answer is you can absolutely save your juice, but I recommend only doing that as a last resort. So say you have to go to work, and you're at work, and while you're at work you would drink a coffee. Well, it's better to save your juice in a nice cold thermos, take it to work, and drink your juice that's 8 hours old instead of drinking that coffee. But on the same token, you know, you don't want to make your juice tonight and then drink it tomorrow morning before you go to work. Hopefully you could maybe get up earlier and make your juice before you go to work. So I think we're gonna be about done here. I don't want the cash cup to overflow. We do have a nice head of foam there. You know, you could use a gravy separator, or if you do a mesh screen on top of the juice collection cup, that'll reduce the foam. Now you know what? All juicers do create some foam. Some juicers tend to create more or less than others. So, you know, if you want to juice, as I'm doing today, the straight greens, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the Omega VERT Juicer. I'd recommend the Omega 8004, 8006. It'll make much less foam. But, you know, if you started to juice some celery in with these greens, or some cucumbers or some carrots, then that'll drastically reduce the amount of foam created. So let's take apart the Omega VERT Juicer and see if any strings are wrapped around the auger. Oh, let's run a little bit more. There's some unspent produce inside the machine. Alright, so that's in there. Now the general rule of thumb, before you turn the Omega VERT Juicer off, you want to take a look closely at the pulp ejection chute. And you can see there, oh, there it is. Some produce is still being juiced. And you want to see, look, produce is still coming out of the machine, and it's very important to let the machine run until the produce stops coming out of the machine, because if you turn off the machine prematurely, then there'll be things still in the machine that are unjuiced. It'll be really wet and actually be more difficult to clean. We want to try to get everything out of the machine as possible. So, you know, let it run a few extra seconds until the pulp pretty much stops coming out of the machine. Alright, so now we're going to take apart the Omega VERT Juicer and see if there's stalks of kale or strings wrapped around the auger. That was a common problem that people had with the original Champion juicer when juicing something like celery. Let's see if it happens to the Omega VERT as well. So we could easily take the top off. That's the top there. We're going to take apart this the screen and the wiping blade assembly. And easily the wiping blade assembly comes off the screen. And we could see inside here, we did get some residual drips of juice onto the motor housing, but it's not too bad. And let's take a look at the screen. So here's the bottom of the auger. You can see some pulp has actually worked its way up. Now this is the first time I've seen any kind of juice dripping down past this seal, and this was only when I juiced straight kale juice. So, you know, there may be something to that. And let's go ahead and pull apart this auger. So, you know, here's the pulp inside, and I don't see any long strings stuck around. There's a little bit of backup in here, you know, and some strings here, but I wouldn't call this jammed or clogged up by any means. And, you know, I think this is definitely, you know, passable for what it's doing. Here's definitely some strings right here. Wow, man, that's really stuck in there pretty good. But look, I mean, literally the Omega VERT Juicer was powerful enough literally to crush the kale and take these strings, and these kales, as you saw, were over 2.5 feet long. So I think the Omega VERT Juicer did an incredible job juicing straight kale. Alright, so you just saw how we did the kale torture test in the Omega VERT Juicer. I think it handled it just fine for what it is, and as I said earlier, if you want to juice straight kale, go with the Omega 8004, 8006. This juicer did, in my opinion, an acceptable job doing it today. And, you know, although I recommend this juicer if you want to do a mixture of things, such as, you know, kale, celery, apple is one of my favorite juices, and I would throw a leaf of kale, then a stalk of celery, and a piece of apple. You don't want to juice all your kale, and then juice all your celery, and then all your apple. No, no, no. we need to give the juicer different fibers at different times and rotate it. That way it'll cause less backup and less clogging, and all the different fibers will help to eject each other out of the machine, and that's what it's really all about. So the next update is that discountjuicers.com now has the Omega VERT Juicer in stock. It's been out of stock for a long time. We now have a limited supply in stock. So go to our website right now, and if it says in stock, we have them in stock and they're ready to ship out to you. If you miss this opportunity, they will not be in stock for about another 3 weeks, and then we'll pull them off the site. We do not take back orders at discountjuicers.com. Once we sold out of our allotment, they're gone, and we will not take any more orders until the next shipment comes in. We're not going to leave you hanging like many other web retailers. They'll take your money and say, oh, it's back order, and then ship it when they can, and they may not even get enough machines to fulfill your order. So this is John Kohler with discountjuicers.com. Be sure to visit discountjuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.